Harry's Wife, Part 102.12. Harry wounds her. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I've explained before, but it's worth repeating, that when you have an interaction with the narcissist, there are only three types that you have. You either provide us with pure fuel, either positive or negative, challenge fuel, or you wound us. If you'd like to understand more about that, go into greater detail, and I'd encourage you to do so, because this is foundation material for you. Please go to the Knowledge Vault and look for the three interactions with the narcissist, and that very reasonably priced information can be yours and enhance your understanding of your involvement with narcissists. When it comes to wounding, this is the worst thing that you can ever do to the narcissist. Some people think by standing and shouting at the narcissist, "You low-down douche canoe, you miserable piece of turd-like excrement, I absolutely hate you, I wish that there was a festering pox upon your household," and the narcissist goes berserk. They think, "Ah, I've wounded the narcissist." No, you haven't. You've just given the narcissist a hefty dollop of challenge fuel. And whilst it's not ideal for the narcissist because you've called them names, the fact that you're recognizing their existence, albeit insulting them, still provides us with that much-needed fuel. Wounding is the absence of the provision of fuel and the absence of control. It's the worst thing that you can do to us. Wounding is forgetting our birthday. Wounding is not answering the telephone. Wounding is ignoring us in person. Wounding is walking away from us. And there are different levels of wounding that occur. The most substantial wounding that can ever take place is in person, where we are ignored or somebody walks away from us. And the greater the position that person holds in the fuel matrix, the worse the wounding is for us. So if we're ignored by a stranger, that burns, but it's not as substantial as, say, a spouse ignoring us. Here we have some video footage which shows Harry ignoring Harry's wife at the recent funeral, and that causes her wounding. Before I analyse it, let's have a look at it a couple of times so that you can digest it and prepare yourself. Here it comes. So, as you can see, Harry is initially looking at Harry's wife. He seems somewhat thoughtful, pensive, no doubt thinking to himself, "Fuckety fuck, fuck, fuck. What have I done? What have I done? For the sake of draining my ginger bollocks, I've caused all manner of a hoo-ha." It's as if Harry's wife, of course, can feel his gaze upon her. And, understand, it's not as if she has any supernatural powers, although often it seems that way, but simply because he's stood next to her, perhaps out of peripheral vision, she can see that he's looking, or she suspects that he's looking, or, of course, it's quite simply because he's there, and her narcissism directs her to assert control over him by causing her to look at him, and thus she does, and she turns, and the moment that she turns to look at him, he lifts his gaze and finds something in the corner of the church far more interesting to look at. He doesn't give her the slightest momentary glimpse whatsoever. He looks displeased. He looks pissed off. He looks cheesed off as he looks elsewhere. His facial features show a set mouth, and as he looks elsewhere and maintains that, you see that moment from Harry's wife where the wounding impacts upon her. So as he looks away from her, there is a moment where she looks to the side and then slowly turns her head back and looks along as if to think, oh, what's he looking at? And then she looks down as he continues to look elsewhere. At that point, her narcissism doesn't cause her to give him a gentle nudge or put her hand on his forearm or to even try to speak to him. The reason being is that the narcissism recognizes that such tasks would be fruitless. Indeed, might well annoy him further, because of course they are attending his grandmother's funeral, where they are meant to be stood silent in reflection and repose. He clearly ignores her, because as she turns, he looks away. He doesn't offer her a little smile. He doesn't offer her a gentle nod. No, quite simply, he looks away. And at that moment, as the intimate partner primary source being physically proximate to her, he causes substantial wounding by ignoring her. Inside, her fury ignites. However, the facade does a very good job. Rather than her grab hold of him and grip him by the ginger bollocks and squeeze, or elbow him in the ribs, or give him a shove, or say, fucking look at me, you cunt, her narcissism doesn't take her in that direction, because of course it would damage the facade. Instead, the direct assertion of control is completely now off limits. The narcissism recognizes that's not going to work. Indeed, any such attempt would make matters worse. And therefore, it does not direct her down that route. The indirect assertion of control is also denied to her. She can't turn to the person on her left and go, "Psst, Harry's just ignored me. What an absolute twat." And for that person to agree, thus showing that they are under control, providing her with some fuel to deal with the wounding that she's experienced, and also, subconsciously, granting her the control over Harry that her narcissism craves. That option isn't available to her. She can't take out her phone and ring Misha Nonu and say, "Misha, guess what? H has ignored me in the church. I can't believe you've been so horrible to me." And then one tear trickles down from the centre of one of her eyes, causing Misha to say, "Oh, my poor little lambkin, I'm sure everything will be okay." Therefore doles out a pity play by telephone. Again, the facade won't let that happen. Accordingly, the direct assertion of control is denied to her. The indirect assertion of control, the second assertion of control, is denied to her. And therefore, she has to sit in silence, or rather stand in silence, causing her to look down and look away. There's no shame, there's no embarrassment. Her narcissism will just be saying, "Harry Huff on again, huh? Don't worry, we'll get him later." And cause her to basically feel sorry for herself. "I don't know why he's being so moody with you. You're just as upset." And to think, "Oh, he's just being an amuncon, typical ginger," and similar thoughts, so that she jettisons the threat to control by ascribing it to him just being a huffy, uncaring bastard, and it's not very fair. Feeling sorry for herself, of course. And in that instance, through the third assertion of control, that subconscious control over him is acquired once more. Undoubtedly, the narcissism has now painted him black because he ignored her. She's gained the control again through the third assertion of control, but he becomes painted black. And therefore, future interactions following on from this may well then find that he becomes ignored by her, where she's more readily able to demonstrate that to him as a direct assertion of control by snubbing him. When the facade isn't needed, i.e. behind closed doors, he remains painted black, and she may well then lambast him. "What do you think you were playing at, ignoring me in the church?" Lambasting him, questioning him, perhaps shoving him, perhaps shouting and shrieking at him, maybe picking up a chicken of authenticity that had been flown over and bouncing it off his head. But the fact is, here he wounded her. She dealt with the wounding, the narcissism always does, and he will have been painted black, and it will have resulted in her meting some unpleasant behaviour out to him, not because she consciously thinks to herself, "I will teach him later as a consequence for what he did to me in the church," but rather he remains painted black so that his future behaviours and their future interactions following this incident are governed by his being painted black, i.e., he's treated badly. So even if he's nice to her, immediately after this, she might shrug away his hand, she might call him a name, mutter something under her breath, because he's painted black. And that takes the form of punishment, although she doesn't actively think that she's punishing him. Again, a useful dynamic analysis between the narcissist and the intimate partner primary source, courtesy of some video material. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.